The money hit their accounts on a Tuesday. I know this because my sister Madison texted me a screenshot of her bank balance at 9:47 a.m. $200,000. Clean, clear, wired from the estate settlement on our mother's house. "Look what mom did for us," she wrote, followed by 3 red heart emojis. Then came the group chat messages from my other sisters. Charlotte, "I'm putting an offer on that house in Ridgewood tomorrow." Eleanor, "I already called the contractor about the kitchen remodel." All 3 of them celebrating. All 3 of them, $200,000 each. I stared at my phone for a long time. The numbers didn't change. An "oh" notification popped up for me. An "oh" wire transfer. An "oh" heart emojis. No invitation to the conversation at all, actually, because they'd started the group chat without me. My own sisters, my own mother. They divided $650,000 among themselves in a room I wasn't even allowed to sit in. The thing about being the successful one is that everyone assumes you don't need anything. I'd built a career in tech sales from nothing, grinding through cold calls and late nights until I was pulling down $180,000 a year. But I'd also paid for Madison's house down payment 8 years ago, and Charlotte's daughter's private school tuition. And Eleanor's failed boutique, which cost me $30,000 that I'd never see again. My savings account sat at roughly $70,000, which sounds like a lot until you realize I'm 37 and living in a city where a 1-bedroom condo costs $500,000. I was still staring at the chat when my mother called. Oliver. Her voice had that particular warmth she only used when she wanted something. "Sweetheart, how are you?" Sweetheart. She never called me sweetheart. I was always Oliver, always the responsible one, always the one who could handle things. But now, the day after she'd cut me out of a 6-figure inheritance, she was suddenly sweetness and light. "Mom." I kept my voice flat. "What do you need?" "I was just thinking about you." The phone rustled. She was probably settling into her recliner. "You work so hard, Oliver. You never take time for yourself. I worry." I waited. I knew this dance. She'd compliment me for 3 or 4 minutes, build me up, so the ask felt smaller. "I've been having some health issues lately," she continued. "The doctors say I need to take it easier. I shouldn't be alone so much." A pause, well rehearsed. "I was thinking maybe I could come stay with you for a while, just until I get back on my feet." There it was. The payoff. Yesterday, she'd given away every cent of that money to my sisters, and today she wanted to move into my apartment. Not because she loved me. Because I was the one with a nice condo and the good neighborhood, and, apparently, the open-ended obligation to house the mother who couldn't be bothered to remember I existed when she was dividing $650,000. I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger exactly, something colder. Something that had been building for years, through every phone call where she asked for money, every holiday where my sisters got the nice gifts and I got a card, every conversation where my success was treated like a resource to be managed rather than an achievement to be celebrated. "I actually did some research," I said. "There's a really nice assisted living facility called The Willows, private rooms, full-time nursing staff. They have a bus that takes residents to cultural events. It's about $4,000 a month." Silence on the other end. I could practically hear her recalculating. "Oliver," she said slowly, "I don't want to go to a home. I want to be with family." "That's a great idea, Mom. Since Madison, Charlotte, and Eleanor each got $200,000 yesterday, they can easily afford to split the cost. I'll send you the information. You can have them call to set it up." "Oliver." "I'm in the middle of something, Mom. I'll text you the details." I hung up. My hand was shaking slightly, but my voice had stayed steady. That was something, at least. 20 minutes later, my phone started ringing with a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then again. Then a third time. Finally, I answered. "Oliver Richardson." Madison's voice hit me like a verbal assault. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Mom called me crying. She said you hung up on her. She said you're trying to put her in a nursing home. "I'm trying to put her in a very nice assisted living facility that costs $4,000 a month, which all 3 of you can afford since you each got $200,000 yesterday." That's Mom's money. She earned it. That house was her life's work. That house was Dad's life's work too, Madison. I kept my voice even. And I didn't get a penny of it, even though I've paid for approximately every family emergency for the past 15 years. Remember when you needed $20,000 for that down payment? Remember when Charlotte's credit card debt got so bad she couldn't make the minimums and I wrote a check? Remember Eleanor's boutique? That was different. That was family helping family. You were in a position to help, so you helped. Then help now. Mom needs care. You've got the money. You do it. You're the son. It's your responsibility. She's your mother. She's all of our mother, Madison. She made that very clear when she gave all 3 of you $200,000 and gave me nothing. I paused. If this is about responsibility, then take yours that I've done more than my share. You're just bitter. I'm not bitter. I was bitter, but she didn't need to know that. I'm finally seeing clearly. That's different. She hung up on me. Then Charlotte called, then Eleanor. The pattern was the same. First anger, then guilt-tripping, then threats. Charlotte said I was destroying the family. Eleanor said I'd regret this. Madison said she was going to tell everyone we knew what kind of son I turned out to be. I let them all go to voicemail. I had work to do, but I couldn't focus. And my mind kept circling back to that moment yesterday when I checked my bank account out of habit and found nothing, and no deposit. No email explaining why, just the silence of someone who decided I wasn't worth remembering. I thought about all the times I'd shown up, all the birthdays I'd flown back for, all the emergency repairs I'd paid for, all the times I'd driven 6 hours to pick someone up at the airport because it would save them $60 on a cab. I thought about how none of it had been enough, how I'd spent my entire adult life trying to prove I was part of this family, and how they'd looked at me yesterday and decided I didn't count. The phone rang again. This time it was my father. Wait, no. Dad died 6 years ago. And in the 6 years since, I'd done everything I could to fill the space he'd left, to be the man he'd expected me to be. Oliver. It was my father's voice, but I was hallucinating. No. It was a recording. No. I was losing my mind. Oliver, it's your dad. The voice crackled. I'm just calling to say I'm proud of you that you've grown into the kind of man I always hoped you'd become. But I need you to understand something about your mother. I looked at my phone. The call was coming from my father's old number, the one I'd kept in my contacts like a tombstone, but the voice wasn't right. IT wasn't my father at all. It was a high school friend of mine, someone who'd been part of a prank I'd pulled in the aftermath of Dad's death. Sorry, man, my friend said, laughing. I was just messing with you. The number was still in my phone. You sounded really serious. I couldn't resist. I'm deleting your number, I said, but I was relieved. For a second, I thought my dead father was reaching out from the grave to make me feel worse. Oliver, my friend said more seriously. Are you okay? You sound like you've been through something. It's nothing. I hadn't spoken to this guy in 4 years. Just family stuff. Aha, family stuff that's got you sounding like someone's died. You want to talk about it? I didn't, but I did. I told him about the money, about the phone call from my mother, about all the years of being the one who paid and the one who got forgotten. I told him about the savings I'd built, the $70,000 that was supposed to be my security, the future I'd been working toward that suddenly felt like a lie. Sounds like you're finally learning what everyone else figured out in high school, my friend said. Your family doesn't see you. They see a wallet. That hit harder than I expected, because it was true. It was brutally, obviously true, and I'd known it for years, but I'd pretended otherwise because pretending was easier than accepting that the people who were supposed to love me most were using me. Doesn't matter, I said. I'm done. I told her to go to the sisters. How'd that go? About as well as you'd expect. My friend laughed again. All right, listen, Dad, I'm not going to give you advice you didn't ask for, but here's something I learned the hard way. When people show you who they are, believe them. The first time, your mom showed you yesterday, your sister showed you yesterday, you just have to stop pretending you didn't see it. I hung up and sat in my office for a long time. The lights were dimming automatically, signaling the end of the workday. I'd missed 2 meetings while I was on the phone. My assistant had sent 3 emails asking if everything was okay. Everything was not okay, but I'd just been told by the woman who raised me that I was worth less than zero. That my contributions, my sacrifices, my entire goddamn existence were worth nothing compared to the needs of my sisters. But something else was happening in my chest. Something that felt suspiciously like freedom. I opened my email and composed a message to all 3 of my sisters and my mother. I kept it simple. As of today, I'm stepping back from all family obligations. I will not be contributing financially to anyone's expenses going forward. I will not be hosting anyone in my home. I wish everyone well, but I need to prioritize my own life now. I hit send. Then I shut down my computer and went home. My girlfriend, Hannah Scott, was already there. She'd made dinner, something with salmon and roasted vegetables, and she'd lit a candle on the dining table. The apartment smelled like lemon and garlic, and something I couldn't quite identify. Hey, I smiled, or tried to. You didn't have to do all this. I wanted to. She came over and kissed me. I know you had a rough day. I saw the group chat. Madison posted something about you being selfish. Of course she did. Hannah was good at reading mead. She'd been doing it for 3 years, ever since we met at a work event where she was representing a company I was trying to sell to. She was a marketing director, solid career, good salary, nothing like the women my mother claimed were after me. Hannah never asked me for money. Hannah never looked at my bank account. Hannah paid her own bills, and sometimes paid for dinner too. But my mother had planted a seed years ago, and I couldn't get it out of my head. She wants me to move her in, I said. Mom. She called today, the day after giving them all the money. She wants to live here. The assisted living thing was her idea, or yours? Mine. I sat down at the table. I told her she could stay with one of them, or they could pay for a facility. I'm not going to let her move in. Hannah sat across from me. She studied my face for a moment. I think that's the right call, for what it's worth. You do. I've never told you this, but your mother hasn't exactly made things easy for us. She smiled ruefully. The passive-aggressive comments at Thanksgiving. The way she looks at me like I'm a gold digger, it's been a lot. I know. I'd noticed, but I'd never said anything. I'd always made excuses. She's old. She doesn't understand your generation. She's just protective. She doesn't want to protect you, Oliver. She wants to control you. There's a difference. I looked at my girlfriend. She was smart. Smarter than me, probably. And she'd been patient, sticking with me through all the family drama, never pushing, never demanding. I have about $70,000 in savings, I said abruptly. Give or take. Hannah blinked. Okay, that's a lot. I mean, good job. I always thought I'd use it for something. A house, maybe. A wedding. Something with you. Oliver. She reached across the table. I don't want you to think that I'm with you for your money. I have my own. I'm not. I know. I squeezed her hand. That's not what I meant. I just wanted you to know where I am, money-wise, that I've been keeping it separate, out of habit. But if we're going to do this, the future stuff, I think we should talk about it. Okay. Hannah's voice softened. We can talk about it, but not tonight. Tonight, you need to decompress. She was right, but the conversation had opened something in me, a crack I hadn't known was there, because if my mother was wrong about Hannah, she was wrong about a lot of things. And if she was wrong about a lot of things, then maybe I'd been wrong about my entire life. The next morning, I got an email from Madison that IT was long, rambling, full of accusations and threats. She was going to tell everyone in the family about me. She was going to sue me for emotional distress. She was going to take out a loan to pay for mom's care, and then sue me for half. I forwarded it to my lawyer. His response came back within the hour. This is nonsense. She doesn't have a case. Ignore it. Let her bury herself in paper. I ignored it. I went to work. I gave a presentation to a new client and closed a deal worth $200,000 in annual revenue. My boss patted me on the back. My colleagues congratulated me. I went home and Hannah and I ordered takeout and watched a movie, and I tried to pretend my family wasn't imploding in slow motion. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Hannah, staring at the ceiling, going over it all again. The phone call, the group chat. The revelation that my mother's love was transactional, that my sister's gratitude was conditional, that my entire existence in their lives had been reduced to a function. What did I have left? I had Hannah. I had my job. That I had $70,000 and the freedom to do whatever I wanted with it. I had, for the first time in my adult life, the possibility of building a future that wasn't tethered to the people who'd never seen me as anything but a resource. It should have felt liberating. Instead, it felt terrifying, because I'd been carrying the weight of my family for so long that I didn't know who I was without it. Hannah stirred beside me. Oliver. Her voice was soft, sleep-blurred. Are you okay? I'm fine. I reached for her hand. Go back to sleep. But she didn't go back to sleep. She rolled over and looked at me in the dark. You want to talk about it? Not really. You can't keep it all inside. I know you've been doing that for years, but it's not healthy. I told Hannah more about my family than I'd ever told anyone. She knew about my father's death, about the way my mother had handled it, about the years of financial pressure and emotional neglect. She knew because she'd been the one who'd noticed the patterns first, who'd said, Oliver, is it always like this? When I'd canceled our third date to lend my sister $1,000. It was a mistake, I said. Getting involved in the money stuff. I should have just walked away years ago. Would you have been able to walk away? No, I admitted. I wanted them to love me. I thought if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, proved enough, they'd finally see me as part of the family. And now, I was quiet for a long moment. Now I think they did see me, just not the way I was hoping. The attack came from 3 directions at once. Madison started the group chat again, this time including my cousins and aunts. Oliver is abandoning our mother. He's refusing to help pay for her care. He wants to put her in a home and forget she exists. Then a long message about how she'd tried everything and I was impossible and the family needed to come together and make him see reason. Charlotte sent a private email to my office. Oliver, I'm copying your HR department and I want them to know what kind of man they're employing. A man who would turn his back on his mother when she needs him most. Eleanor took the most direct route. She called my boss, not my cell phone, my boss's direct line that I only found out because my boss, Kyle, walked over to my desk and said, your sister just called me. She said you were trying to starve your mother. I stared at him for a full 5 seconds. She said what? Starve your mother. Kyle was trying not to laugh. I told her I'd look into it and hung up. But Oliver, if you're going to have family drama, can you at least keep it out of my voicemail? She's lying. My mother has $200,000 from the estate sale. My sisters have another $600,000 between them. I'm the only one who got nothing. Kyle raised an eyebrow. So, you're not starving your mother? The opposite. I'm trying to get my sisters to pay for her care. She wants to move in with me because she thinks I'm a soft touch. I said no. Now they're all losing their minds. He considered this. You're the son. They're the daughters. In your culture, isn't it expected that the son takes care of the parents? I don't know what culture you're thinking of, but in my family, it's expected that the son pays for everything and gets nothing in return. I'm done with that. Good for you. Kyle nodded. I'll ignore the calls. But Oliver, if this gets worse, if she starts showing up here or calling clients, I need to know. Trust me, you'll know. I turned back to my computer. The day stretched ahead of me, full of meetings and deadlines and the 1,000 small demands of a job I'd once found satisfying. The next call came from my mother herself. I'm not going to the assisted living facility. Oliver, I want to live with you. You're the only one who can take care of me properly. Your sisters have their own families. They can't be running all over town trying to manage my appointments. Then pay for home care aid. You've got the money. I don't have the money. I gave it to your sisters. Then they can give it back. That's between you and them. Oliver. Her voice shifted, softer now, almost pleading. I don't understand what happened to you. You used to be such a good son. You used to care about family. What changed? I'd been asked that question 1,000 times, in 1,000 different ways. What happened to you, Oliver? Why are you so cold now? When did you stop caring? Nothing happened to me. I just finally stopped pretending. I spent 15 years taking care of you and my sisters. Mom, I paid Madison's down payment. I paid Charlotte's credit card debt. I paid for Eleanor's business. I paid your medical bills and your car repairs and every other emergency that came up. I never asked for anything in return. And that's exactly what family does. We help each other. Except yesterday, I said. Yesterday, you all helped each other, and you left me out. There was a long pause on the line. I could hear her breathing, quick and shallow. She'd been caught. She knew she'd been caught, but she wasn't going to admit it. That was different, she said finally. That was your father's money. It was meant for me. I had a right to do what I wanted with it. You had a right to do exactly what you did, and I have a right to walk away. I hung up again. My hands were shaking. I'd said the words. I'd drawn the line, but something in me still felt like I'd done something wrong, like I'd violated some fundamental law of the universe. My phone buzzed with a text from Hannah. You okay? Your sister Charlotte just called me. She said some things I don't want to repeat. Don't worry about it, I wrote back. I'm handling it. I wasn't handling it. I was just surviving it. That evening, I got home to find Hannah waiting for me with a glass of whiskey and a look that said we needed to talk. I think we should do a test, she said. Test? What kind of test? Your mother thinks I'm a gold digger. Hannah's voice was steady, but her eyes were sharp. She's been saying it for years. You've always defended me, but I want to show you that she's wrong. And I want to show you that your entire family is wrong. I don't understand. Hannah sat down next to me. Your mother thinks I'm with you for your money, so let's prove her wrong. Let's pretend you lost everything. I blinked. Hannah, that's insane. I can't just quit my job. You don't have to quit. You just have to let me think you did. I'll offer to take care of you for 6 months. I'll make it clear that I'm committed to you, not to your bank account. And if your mother or sisters ask you about it, you can say you lost your job and watch how they react. If your mother's right about me, I'll show my true colors, and if she's wrong, you'll have proof. My first instinct was to refuse. The plan was complicated, manipulative, almost cruel, but something stopped me. Because the fear had already taken root, the one my mother had planted so carefully, all those years ago. What if you fail the test? I asked. I won't. Everyone says that. I studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. Everyone thinks they pass, but when the money's gone. Hannah took my hand. Oliver, I don't want her money. I've never wanted your money. I've been with you for 3 years, and I've seen you give everything to your family and get nothing back. The only thing I want is to see you happy. If that means taking care of you for a while, I'll do it gladly. You're serious. I'm serious. I stared at her for a long moment, then I reached for my laptop and opened my banking app. I'm going to transfer some money to a separate account, enough for 3 months of expenses. Then I'm going to tell you I lost my job. Wait, Hannah said. Before we do this, I want to set some ground rules. I raised an eyebrow. Ground rules? This is a test for you too. Oliver, I'm agreeing to prove myself, but if you don't trust me after everything I've shown you, then we need to ask yourself why. Because the problem might not be me. It might be the beliefs your family planted in you. I hadn't expected that. She was right though. I'd been carrying my mother's poison for so long that I didn't even recognize it anymore. Rules, I repeated. Go on. 1. I'm going to prove to you that I love you for who you are, not what you have. But if this test ends and you still think I'm a gold digger, then I'm walking. I'm not spending my life being doubted. Okay. 2. You're going to tell your family the same story. You lost your job, you're in debt. You might need to sell the apartment. I want to see how they react. Not because I want to watch them suffer, but because I want you to see the truth. Done. 3. We're going to use this as an opportunity to rebuild your relationship with yourself, not with them with you. Because you've spent 15 years being their everything, and you've got nothing left. My eyes burned. Hannah, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. She kissed me. Just trust me. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept going over the plan in my head, looking for the flaw. Hannah was right. This was an opportunity to test everything. My mother's claims, my sister's loyalty. My own ability to trust. The next morning, I made the phone call. Mom, I need to tell you something. I lost my job. Silence on the line. Then, lost your job? How? You were doing so well. I wasn't doing well. I was pretending. I've been struggling for months. I'm in debt. I can't afford the apartment. I might have to sell. The apartment? But I was going to live there. I'd expected that reaction, but hearing it still stung. Her first thought wasn't concern for me. It was concern for her housing plan. I'm sorry, Mom. I can't take you in now. I can barely support myself. Oliver, this is exactly what I was afraid of. You always did spend too much money. You were never careful. Her voice hardened. You should have saved more. You should have listened to me. I should have listened to you. I repeated. About what? About everything. About your work, your savings, your girlfriend. I knew she was a problem. Mom, Hannah's not the problem. Of course she is. She's been living off you for years. But now that you've got nothing, she'll leave. Just wait. You'll see. The call ended with her giving me a lecture on fiscal responsibility. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't offer to help. She didn't even pretend to care. My mother had failed the test in spectacular fashion. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Madison. Mom said you lost your job? You're really in debt? Are you serious? Very serious, I typed. I've been hiding it. I'm going to lose everything. Her response came quickly. Oh my God, you're really going to do this to us? We can't support you. We have our own families. You can't just become a burden. Become a burden. I read the phrase twice. My sister, who I'd helped for 15 years, was calling me a burden. Just sell the apartment, she wrote. Move somewhere cheaper. Don't ask us for help. We've got enough going on. Charlotte's response was even colder. I knew something was off. You were acting strange. I guess you couldn't keep up the facade forever. Eleanor called me directly, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Oh, Oliver, this is so hard, but you'll figure it out. You always do. Just don't expect anything from us. We've got our own lives to live. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. My 3 sisters, my mother, the entire web of people I'd spent my life supporting, were abandoning me the moment I couldn't pay. And Hannah, the woman my mother had been calling a gold digger for years, was the only one who'd actually offered to help. Oliver. Hannah's voice cut through the spiral. Are you okay? Fine, I said, but my voice cracked. I'm fine. I can't believe they're all... Believe it. Hannah sat down next to me. This is who they've always been. You just finally let yourself see it. I know. I've been in denial for so long. I kept thinking if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, they'd eventually love me the way I needed them to. Hannah looked at me for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me the screen. She'd been recording the entire call, everything my mother had said. I told you there would be a test, she said, and I told you I'd pass. You recorded it? I started recording the moment you said you lost your job. I wanted documentation, in case she ever tries to claim I didn't support you. Documentation for what? Legal purposes. Hannah's eyes were determined. Your sisters are going to escalate, Oliver. They're going to try to take what you have, and I'm not going to let them. I blinked. Hannah, I don't have anything left. You have $70,000 and a job you didn't lose. You have me, and you have the truth. She put her phone away. Now, let's show your family exactly who they're dealing with. It took 3 weeks for the real battle to begin. I'd expected a quiet exit. My sisters, shamed by their failure to support me, would retreat and leave me alone. But they didn't retreat. They escalated. Madison's lawyer sent me a letter demanding that I contribute $10,000 to emergency medical expenses for my mother. Charlotte's lawyer sent a second letter claiming I was legally obligated to support my aging parent. Eleanor just started posting about me online. My brother abandoned our mother in her time of need. We tried everything to help him, but he refused to take responsibility. My lawyer sent their lawyers the same response in triplicate. My client is not legally responsible for supporting his mother. He's currently unable to do so financially. All of his assets were depleted by supporting the defendants over the last 15 years, as documented. Cease and desist. And then I sent the financial records. I'd been keeping records for years. Every transfer, every loan, every check I'd written, I'd never intended to use them as weapons. I just wanted to track my spending, to make sure I wasn't giving too much. Now I had a ledger full of evidence. Dear Madison, Charlotte, Eleanor, and Mom, I wrote, you claim I'm abandoning you. Here's the truth. I'm simply asking you to return what I gave, and if you don't, I'm asking a judge to do it for me. I attached a list of every payment I'd made over the last 15 years, each one labeled, each one time-stamped. The final number was $94,000, significantly more than the $85,000 I'd initially thought. Madison called me within an hour. You can't be serious. You're threatening to sue us? We're family. I'm not threatening to sue you, Madison. I'm documenting what I've already given. If you want to come after me for support, I'm going to show the court exactly why I can't afford to help. This is my evidence. You're deranged. You've lost your mind. I found my mind, actually. I hung up, my hand trembling less than before. Charlotte called next. She was more nervous. Oliver, please don't do this. We can work something out. I'll talk to Mom. We can find a way to make this right. Make this right? Charlotte, you have $200,000 in your checking account. And you're telling me you need me to contribute to Mom's care? $200,000 doesn't go as far as you think. Then sell your house. Get a roommate. Do what everyone else does. I've been the only one supporting this family for 15 years. Now it's your turn. Eleanor was the last to call. She was crying, but I'd been crying too once. I was done with it. You're going to destroy us, Oliver. You're going to destroy everything Mom built. Everything Mom built was built on my back. I kept my voice steady, and I'm done letting her stand on me. The attacks continued. A statement released to my local newspaper, letters to my clients. Someone even tried to contact my landlord, asking if I was going to miss my next rent payment. But I had friends I'd made over the years, people who knew the truth. And I had Hannah, who'd been with me every step of the way. "What's the next move?" she asked one night. "I don't have a next move," I admitted. "I've done everything I can. I've exposed them. I've documented everything. The only thing left is to live my life and hope they eventually go away." But I'd learned something about my family over the years. They didn't go away. So I kept collecting evidence, and I kept waiting for them to make a mistake. And when they did, I'd be ready. The summons arrived on a Thursday, certified mail, return receipt requested. My mother, Margaret Richardson, was suing me for willful neglect of a dependent parent, seeking $50,000 in back support and ongoing monthly payments of $2,000. I read the document 3 times. The legal language was dense, but the meaning was clear. She was using the courts to force me to pay for her care. Never mind that she had $200,000 of her own, and my sisters had another $600,000 between them. Never mind that I'd given them nearly $100,000 over 15 years. None of that mattered to her lawyer. What mattered was that I was her son, and in our state, adult children could be held financially responsible for indigent parents. But Margaret wasn't indigent, and I had the bank records to prove it. I called my lawyer, a sharp woman named Diane who'd handled my grandfather's estate years ago. She read the complaint and let out a low whistle. She's claiming she's destitute, that she has no income and no assets, that you're her only hope of not ending up on the street. She has $200,000 in a money market account. I have the account number from a statement she accidentally left in my apartment last year. Diane was quiet for a moment. "Do you have copies?" "I have photos, and I have copies of the wire transfers to your sisters, $600,000 total, deposited into their accounts the day after the estate settled." Then she's committing fraud. If she tells the court she has nothing, and we prove she's lying, she could be charged with perjury. But Oliver, this is going to get ugly, and she's your mother. The press might pick it up. I don't care about the press anymore. I care about the truth. The hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. In the meantime, my sisters escalated their campaign. Madison sent letters to my employer, claiming I was mentally unstable and a danger to the company. Charlotte posted on social media about how I'd abandoned our mother. Eleanor called my landlord and tried to get me evicted. None of it worked. MY boss knew me too well to believe Madison's claims. MY landlord had seen the rent checks clear every month. And my friends, the ones who'd watched me support my family for years, started posting their own defenses of me. Oliver Richardson paid for his sister's house down payment, and she's calling him unstable. One friend wrote, "That's not instability. That's generosity exploited." The tide of public opinion was starting to turn, but the legal battle was just beginning. Diane and I prepared our defense. We gathered every receipt, every canceled check, every bank transfer. We had a timeline showing that Margaret had received substantial income from rental properties my father had left her. We had evidence that my sisters had immediately spent their inheritance on luxury items, Madison's new car, Charlotte's kitchen remodel, Eleanor's European vacation. And we had the recordings Hannah had made, the phone call where Margaret said I'd wasted my money, the text from my sisters calling me a burden. On the morning of the hearing, I walked into the courthouse with Hannah at my side. MY mother sat in the front row with my 3 sisters. They looked anxious, but confident. They'd hired a lawyer who specialized in elder law, a man with a silver tongue and a reputation for winning. "Oliver." My mother's voice was cold. "I'm giving you one last chance. Withdraw your defense. Agree to pay the support. We can settle this without the court's involvement." "I'm not going to withdraw, Mom. You're not destitute. You have money. You just don't want to spend it." Her eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." The hearing began. Margaret's lawyer laid out his case. My mother was elderly, in declining health, unable to work, and had exhausted her savings. She needed help, and I, as her only son, was legally obligated to provide it. Then it was my turn. Diane stood and approached the judge. "Your Honor, my client has provided substantial financial support to the petitioner and her other children for over 15 years. He's given nearly $100,000 to this family, and yet the petitioner claims she has no assets. That's simply not true." She presented the bank statements, the money market account with $200,000, the wire transfers to my sisters, the rental income from my father's properties. Margaret's lawyer tried to object. "Your Honor, these documents are authentic," Diane interrupted. "We have the bank's verification. The petitioner has been hiding assets. This lawsuit is a fraud." The judge examined the documents. He looked at my mother, who was now pale. "Mrs. Richardson, is it true that you have $200,000 in a money market account?" Margaret stammered. That's for emergencies. I can't touch it. I need that money." "You have $200,000 and you're suing your son for support?" "He has money. He makes $200,000 a year. He can afford it." "I can afford it," I said, standing up, "but I won't be extorted. I've given everything I have to this family. I gave them money, time, and love, and when I told them I'd lost my job, they abandoned me. Every single one of them." The courtroom was silent. I turned to face my sisters. Madison, you called me a burden. Charlotte, you said I was trying to destroy the family. Eleanor, you told me not to expect anything from you. You all had money, 200,000 each, and you couldn't even offer to help your own brother. Madison's face was red. We thought you'd figure it out. You always do. Because I always had to. Because no one else would. Because I was the only one who ever stepped up. The judge was watching me carefully. Mr. Richardson, is there any other evidence you'd like to present? I paused. This was the moment I'd been dreading and hoping for. Your Honor, I'd like to request a DNA test. The courtroom erupted. My mother's face went white. My sisters exchanged panicked glances. A DNA test? The judge repeated. For what purpose? Your Honor, I said slowly, my mother has always treated me differently from my sisters. I was the one who paid, the one who sacrificed, the one who was expected to give everything. And yet I was never treated as an equal. I was never trusted with the inheritance. I was left out of the estate division entirely. What are you implying, Mr. Richardson? I'm implying that I might not be her biological son. And I believe she knows it. That's why she's never really loved me. That's why I was always the one expected to give, never to receive. Margaret was on her feet. That's a lie. You're my son. I raised you. Then you won't mind taking a DNA test to prove it. The judge nodded. I'll order a DNA test. It's relevant to the question of filial responsibility. If Mr. Richardson is not biologically related to the petitioner, the legal obligation may not apply. The hearing was adjourned. My mother was escorted out by her lawyer, her face a mask of barely contained rage. My sisters followed, but they didn't look at me. Hannah squeezed my hand. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. The DNA test took 2 weeks. During that time, I started digging into my father's old papers. I found a box in his storage unit that I'd never opened. Inside were letters, photographs, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. The envelope contained a letter from my father, written shortly before his death. Oliver, if you're reading this, then I've failed you and I should have told you the truth long ago. Margaret isn't your biological mother. Your real mother was a woman named Laura, a dancer I met when I was young. We loved each other, but I was already married to Margaret. When Laura became pregnant, Margaret forced me to take you and raise you as our own. She promised to love you, but she never could. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I read the letter 3 times. I stared at a photograph of Laura, a beautiful woman with dark hair and kind eyes. She looked nothing like Margaret. She looked like me. The DNA test came back on a Friday. The results were delivered to the court and to both attorneys. Diane called me immediately. Oliver, you're not related to Margaret. The test is conclusive. You share no DNA with her. She's not your biological mother. I sat down. The world spun around me. I'd suspected it, but hearing the confirmation was surreal. What does this mean for the case? It means she can't claim you as a dependent adult child. The law only applies to biological or adoptive parents. Since there's no adoption, she never legally adopted you. You have no obligation to support her. What about my sisters? They're her biological children. They're the ones who have the legal obligation, and they're the ones who have the money. This case is effectively over. The judge dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice. My mother's fraud was exposed, and her lawyer withdrew, citing irreconcilable differences. Margaret had no legal claim against me, but the revelation changed everything. I was free, not just from the lawsuit, but from the lie that had shaped my entire life. I went home that night and told Hannah everything. I showed her the letter from my father. I showed her Laura's photograph. She died, I said. My father's letter says she died in a car accident when I was 3. I never got to meet her. You met her, Oliver. She held you when you were a baby. She loved you. How do you know? Because she gave you up to protect you. She didn't abandon you. She couldn't raise you herself, so she trusted your father to keep you safe. That's not abandonment. That's love. I cried for the first time in years. I cried for Laura, the mother I'd never known. I cried for myself, for the boy who'd spent his whole life trying to earn love from a woman who'd never had any to give. The next morning, I received a call from a lawyer I'd never met. He represented Laura's estate. Mr. Richardson, we've been trying to reach you for years. Laura left you something, a small trust fund and a house upstate. She wanted you to have it when you turned 30. But she couldn't be sure Margaret would let you have it, so she put it in a trust with instructions to locate you only if certain conditions were met. What conditions? That Margaret would eventually try to exploit you financially. Laura anticipated that. She didn't trust Margaret, and she wanted to make sure you had something of your own. The trust was modest, about $30,000, but the house was valuable, a 2-bedroom cabin on a lake, far from the city. Laura had bought it with her own money years ago. She wanted you to have a refuge, the lawyer said, a place where you could be yourself, away from Margaret. I drove upstate the following weekend. The cabin was small but well-maintained, with a stone fireplace and a porch overlooking the water. Inside, I found boxes of Laura's belongings, journals, photographs, dance costumes. She'd been a ballet dancer, talented and passionate. Her journals were filled with entries about me. Oliver took his first steps today. He smiled at me. I can't believe he's mine. I can't believe I have to give him up. Page after page of love, sacrifice, and heartbreak. I sat on the porch and watched the sun set over the lake. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had a home. Not a place, but a sense of belonging. Hannah arrived the next day. She helped me sort through Laura's things. We found a box of baby clothes, a lock of hair, a birth certificate with my name and Laura's. "This is you," Hannah said, holding up a tiny knitted sweater. "She made this for you." I smiled. "I'm going to keep this place. I'm going to make it my own. And I'm going to start a new life without Margaret or my sisters." "What about your mother?" "Margaret's not my mother. Laura was. And now I'm going to honor her memory." The aftermath was quick and brutal for Margaret and my sisters. The lawsuit had exposed their greed, and the revelation that Margaret wasn't my biological mother stripped away any remaining sympathy. They became pariahs in our extended family. Cousins stopped talking to them. Aunts and uncles expressed shock at their behavior. Madison tried to sue me for fraudulent misrepresentation, claiming I'd tricked her into giving me money. I countersued for defamation and harassment, and she dropped the case. Charlotte's credit card debt caught up with her. She'd spent her inheritance quickly and couldn't keep up with the payments. She declared bankruptcy. Eleanor's husband left her when he found out about the lawsuit. He didn't want to be associated with her. She moved back in with Margaret, and the two of them lived in constant conflict. Margaret eventually had to sell her house to pay her legal fees. She moved into a small apartment, with my sisters occasionally visiting but rarely helping. The money she'd hidden ran out faster than she'd planned, and she was forced to apply for state assistance. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt nothing but emptiness, followed by relief. The woman who'd raised me was a stranger, and I was finally free of her. A year passed. Hannah and I got married in a small ceremony at the lake cabin. We invited only our closest friends. No family from my side. I didn't need them. We adopted a dog, a golden retriever named Laura. We planted a garden. I took up fishing. I started therapy, finally addressing the years of trauma that had shaped me. Hannah and I talked about having children. I wasn't sure I wanted to be a father, given my history, but Hannah was patient. She said I'd be a great father because I knew exactly what not to do. One evening, I was going through Laura's journals again, and I found a passage I'd missed. "My dearest Oliver, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I want you to know something. You were never a mistake. You were a gift. Every time I look at you, I see a future full of hope. I'm sorry I can't be there to watch you grow, but I know you'll be strong and brave and kind. You'll break the cycle. Oliver, I know you will." I closed the journal and looked out at the lake. The sun was setting, painting the water gold. Hannah was inside, cooking dinner, humming a song I didn't recognize. I walked into the kitchen and wrapped my arms around her. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For believing in me, for sticking with me, for never giving up." She turned and kissed me. "I'm not going anywhere, Oliver. That's the one promise I'll never break." We stood there in the warm kitchen of a house I'd inherited from a mother I'd never known, and I felt something I'd never felt before. Peace. The cycle was broken. I was free.